Welcome to Spoonful of Courage. I'm Dr. Page. For those people who are really suffering with an acute illness and death is a possibility, how do you begin to have a conversation with your kids? We're here with Heather Carter. Heather is a author, speaker. She's a realtor. She's a mom, and she's also a survivor of acute leukemia. And she's also a Christian. And Heather has some unique insights of kind of sharing her journey, which she does in her books, Soul Selfie and Soul Selfie #NoFilter. Heather,
hi.
So good to have you on the show.
Hi, thanks for having me back.
Absolutely, and you're back on popular demand, by the way. So what kinds of conversations did you and your husband have with your kids? Once again, all of a sudden, you're thrown in the hospital for 30 days and they're pouring the poison into your veins, trying to kill this cancer. You really are in contact isolation.
Mm-hmm.
How did you explain to your children what could happen?
Yeah.
Or did you say anything?
Well, I know it's hard to think back to exactly, obviously, what we said, but my kids were, I think, 11, 12, and then my boy and a girl. And then my oldest was in California in college, in his first year in college. And so that was, I think for him, it was a little different because he was kind of like, yeah, I'm sure it's going to be fine. I don't even know if cancer was thrown around. Like leukemia feels a little nebulous.
Yeah, what's that?
I don't even know what that is. I didn't know before I had it.
I'm a surgeon. I don't even know if I can spell leukemia.
Yeah. It's hard. It is hard. Yeah. It's very hard. Because I've had to type it a lot when I start talking about it. But so it's easy. I think for him, he was in a little bit of denial of how severe the situation was. But my other two, and I guess the one thing I would say is that every child, you don't parent a child the same because you don't parent them all the same because they all have very different personalities.
Oh, yes.
What each child can handle. So my daughter, she came to the hospital a lot. I was in the hospital for 35 days, the first round. And then she would come in and they decorated my room. We had white Christmas lights in my room, which went with me every time after that. I had to do 6 more rounds of chemo, and I did them 6 days in the hospital at a time. So we would bring in our big box of Christmas lights and like whirligigs, and we'd attach them all around the ceiling to our rooms. So nurses would just come in and say, I'm not your nurse today, but I just want to stand in your room for a minute because it's so peaceful in here. And it's kind of like ambiance, But my daughter would come in and we would do our nails together and we didn't talk a lot about it. We just did as much regular life as we could when I felt up to it. So with her, it was different. My son, on the other hand, he had a lot of excuses for not being able to come to the hospital. And he was in sports, so that was a good one. But then a lot of times he was just too tired from his game, or he was just too this.
Right.
But one thing he did, he's a very subtle personality, but he had done a basketball camp at Lincoln Christian College during that time, or maybe in the summer. And he arranged for the entire Lincoln Christian College basketball team to come and visit me in the hospital.
Wow.
And that took a lot of, I don't know how he did that. He was 12 years old, figured that out. And they all came and visited me in my room with my bald head and all. But that's one of the few times
in his own way, he was dealing with the grief and loss, or potential grief and loss.
And then my oldest one, at the end of my time, I ended up getting a secondary infection and was intubated in ICU for a week. And so I had like an infectious disease team. I had all kinds of teams, which in life I really kind of do, Chuck. I need a team. I'm a lot of work. I need a team of people helping me. And
don't we all, Heather? Hey, so Heather, would you say that your husband, typically you talk about teams, a lot of times one person kind of takes the lead in talking with the kids.
Yeah. I think
Did
he
your
was
husband
home.
do more of that since you were sick?
Yes. I think they were a lot of casual organic conversations about it. We never, that I recall anyway, maybe they did it when I was in the hospital and not there, but I don't recall any time where we just sat everybody down.
Right.
Because we
Let's have the talk.
Yeah, because we also knew, we don't know what God's going to do. Either
Right.
God may heal me, he may not, but we're not going to try to predict the future. We're just going to take things as they come and love on each other and love on mom. And we had a lot of grandparents involved, so that helped. But I think there was a lot of organic conversations as they're watching TV and doing life stuff at home.
And sometimes that's the best, those, like, kind of the idea of spoonfuls of courage, just little doses of talk, but having those communication lines open. So what would be your spoonful of courage, Heather, to tell families who are facing an uncertain future about how to communicate with your kids?
Yeah. Well, I think the biggest thing that I learned is that, and I saw that pretty clearly during my journey, is that it's in many ways harder on the caregivers, and not just for the care they're giving, but just for the mental state that they're in, knowing their mom or someone is sick and there's nothing they can really do about it. So I would say just extending extra grace to those people and whatever means that they're using to cope with it, because sometimes they're not, not always is it going to be a positive thing. Everybody has their
moments,
settings about how they cope with stress. And we just need to extend grace to those people during that time and realize that they're suffering in a way it's just different than the one who's actually got the cancer. So just,
Heather, I want you to hold that thought, because in the next segment, we're going to talk a little bit more about caregivers and your experience with your husband. And so we're going to do a whole segment on that. So if you'll stay tuned, we will be discussing that on Spoonful of Courage. We're here with Heather Carter. HeatherCarterWrites.com is her website. Her books are Soul Selfie and Soul Selfie #NoFilter. She also has a very active Facebook page, which is Soul Selfie Blog. And so you can connect with her all of those ways. Once again, her books are available on Amazon. And she also does some speaking. We're going to talk a little bit about some of those little spoonfuls of courage she'd like to share with us about adversity in another segment. So, Heather, it's been a real honor having you on the show.
Yep. Thanks, Chuck.
And don't forget to text spoonful to 66866.